Welcome back to Stadiacast, everybody. How's it going? I'm Bill. That's Lloyd. How you doing, Lloyd?
I'm doing okay. I'm a little bit slower today than I'd like. We were out at a bonfire over at a friend's house for the first time in a while, and it was a late night. And Canada geese used me for target practice. The first time in my whole entire life that a goose has hit me. I know a lot of people in Winnipeg talk about the terrible geese, but the goose did a strafing run, and I was collateral damage.
When I was in the Army and we saw like a seagull, we would call it a GU-11. I was like, oh, watch out, there's GU-11 bombers coming in.
Love it. Love it.
That's funny. Well, I'm sorry about that. And it reminded me, as you said that, of an episode of Letterkenny that's all about Canadian geese. If you haven't watched it, make sure that you check it out. I think they're on Hulu, or at least they used to be. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Lloyd and his avian difficulties. We're here to talk about video games, and that's what we're going to do. So for those of you that don't know, this is Stadiacast. We record this show live every single Sunday morning at 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern, right over on our YouTube channel, nerdnest.tv. Head on over to that channel, hit subscribe, click the bell, turn on all of the notifications so that you don't miss out. We had a lot of actual streams this week where I was streaming New World, which is not on Stadia, but I was streaming it. Lloyd was streaming. I can never remember the name of this game. What's it called again?
Cana and Bridge of Spirits.
Yeah, Cana and the Bridge of Spirits. And that game is gorgeous. Oh my God, it's beautiful. So if you want to see our streams, make sure that you head on over to the YouTube channel and subscribe and turn on the notifications. And while you're here with us live, something else you can do if you want to support the show, maybe there's something that we leave out or something that you absolutely want to make sure that we talk about, use the super chat feature. And we will be able to respond to each and every one of those. It highlights it, and we guarantee to respond to every super chat that comes in. Lloyd, what have you been playing this week?
It's been a busy week. I've been playing a lot of stuff across all the platforms, which is incredibly odd for me. It's weird to have a few free hours every night, or not every night, but more nights than I normally get. So I've been playing things like Hot Wheels Unleashed on Steam through GeForce Now, which has been fantastic. I've been playing a lot of other games on other platforms as well. But on Stadia, since we got a surprise shadow drop of another pro title, Mafia 3, I finally jumped into Mafia 3, and I've been playing a fair bit of that. I played maybe a couple hours yesterday. I'm really enjoying it. I've owned Mafia 3 twice. I got it for $5 on the PlayStation 4. Didn't even crack the cellophane. And then I got it through some bundle or something. I can't even remember where I got it or how I got it. And then I didn't play it then either. And then it just took dropping on Stadia Pro for me to boot it up and play through a few hours of it. It's a fantastic game. Unfortunately, it is 1080p on Stadia. So I know a lot of people are immediately complaining, why can't it run at 4K? I don't know. Don't ask me that. Ask the developers. But it plays really, really well. This is not a game for the kids. It is set in kind of the era of kind of the Vietnam War. You play an African American. You're in the society where there is a lot of racism, and you're kind of in the Deep South as well. So there's a lot of racist overtones. It's a game about the mafia, so it's there's a lot of organized crime and other stuff. So it's not even a good game to play around the kids because there's a lot of kind of seedier places that you get into in the game. But I love games like this. I love going around. I love knocking things off of a map. Check boxes through collectibles or missions to control sections of the city or whatever. I love games like that. So I'm having a lot of fun on Mafia 3, even though it's not up to the graphical standards that some people say it should be. That doesn't change how fun the game is.
Yeah, I've never been a graphics snob, but the game is unplayable for me. And
Really?
it's unplayable because it keeps crashing. Like every time that I play it, I run into your game crashed, and I was just like, so after like 3 times of that happening, I just gave up. And then I went on Twitter and Reddit and looked around, and sure enough, other people are running into the same issue. So
That
I'm
sucks.
looking forward to playing it, but apparently it's running into some kind of hiccups, and hopefully those get ironed out
Mm,
soon, so I'll be able to actually check out this game that I have been looking forward to. I always love, like, I haven't played any of the Mafia games, none of them, but I always love like a good, like a mob movie, like organized
yeah,
crime movies. I always love that kind of thing. So
yeah.
this is definitely something that I'm very interested in playing, and I just hope that the kinks get ironed out before long, so I can try it out. And maybe I was just unlucky, but I saw a lot
Mm.
of people complaining that the game wasn't running.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people complain as well, and I was like, "Really? This game's unplayable because it crashes?" And then, like 5 minutes later, my game crashed for the first time when it was loading into a zone. I'm like, "Oh no!" But that's the only time I did it. In about 2 hours, it crashed once. So I don't know. Fingers crossed. Maybe whatever flip bit is freaking out the game it isn't on my save game for whatever reason. But hopefully they'll get that fixed because yeah, that's not good.
Like
It's
mine never
definitely
even
not good.
started. Like I
Oh,
start it and
really?
it crashes. So I was just like, whatever, I quit.
I had an
Anyway,
issue. I had
huh?
an issue where it immediately boots into surround sound, and if you don't have surround sound speakers hooked up, you can't hear any of the dialogue. Like you
Oh,
you get like a super muffled dialogue. So I had to go into my Chromecast with Google TV. I had to turn off any sort of additional surround sound options. I said folk or only do stereo. Then I had to go in the game. I had to turn the dynamic range for the audio down to low, and then I had to quit the game,
oh my goodness.
start another game so it cleared my session, started Mafia back up, and then I could actually hear people talking. So I had to restart the intro. I thought was my game bugged or whatever, but then I noticed that I was getting some positional audio. If I would move my camera just to the side a little bit, I'd get the volume for people's voices that was at 1% went to
Mhm.
like 1.5%, and I'm like, okay, this has to do with that. So yeah, I think there's some definite issues with the port of this game. Hopefully we can get some patching and get the stuff fixed, but it was nice to see it as a secret surprise freebie for this month's pro, so I'm glad it came.
Absolutely. I love when this kind of thing happens, when they're like, "Oh, by the way, here you go." I was expecting some kind of surprise pro game this month, and I expected it to be a spooky kind of title because it's
Mhm.
Halloween.
Right.
But I'm certainly not going to complain about this, and I didn't pay any money for this. So I'm willing to wait and be patient for the game to work itself out. It's not like I don't have 1,000 things to play
Right.
whenever I feel like it. Like I have uh I don't know, 100 and some games on Stadia, I'm sure. I've got 400 games on Steam. I've got hundreds of games on my Nintendo Switch. I've got Game Pass on my Xbox. It's an embarrassment of riches right now. And so I have nothing to complain about. I'll just wait
Right.
until Mafia 3 is fixed, and then I can jump in and experience that world, because what you're saying sounds like a very interesting story, and I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah.
I have been well. Oh, first off, last week you mentioned that you played the. I got to click on my show notes because
From
I keep.
space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. From Space, the multiplayer demo. I played that. Very cool. Very, very cool. So, I was looking at that game just from what I had seen, and like twin stick shooter. I like the art style. I didn't get to play with anybody because I love that there's like little phone booths in the game, and I can walk up to a phone booth and call a friend, and it brings up
Mm,
my friends list, which is cool. But nobody was playing that game, and I don't want to be that guy, because I have that guy send me invites all the time where
right.
I'm playing game X, and I know that it shows what game I'm playing, and then they're like, "Hey, you want to play Rainbow Six Siege with me?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm already playing a game." So I went through my friends list, and everybody was playing something. And I was like, "Well, I don't want to send anybody a message and bother them." So I just said, "Forget it. I'm not going to do the multiplayer." So I did the single player through the demo, and it was really, really cool. I got swarmed a couple times. I wish that there were you have spots in your inventory for 6 guns, and I wish that you could bring up like a wheel to switch between them, because there were times where I was like, "Oh, right now would be a really good time for the grenade launcher." but if I hit the ellipsis button, or as I like to call it, the dead snowman, if I hit the dead snowman button, my like I stop moving, and they're not going to stop moving, and they're going to kill me. So I can't get to my inventory fast enough to really take advantage of that. So I
Right.
tended to just stick with the Gatling gun and the Uzi as my two guns. I would
Right.
really like it if I could hold L1 or something and have it bring up a weapon wheel and let me pick that way. But it's fine that they don't do that. That's their design decision. I
Mm.
really like how I had to go and like get this robot and have the robot follow me around as I killed
Yeah.
the pink guys and got the pink XP. Because as I was getting it, I was like, I don't really know what this is for. Like, why am I collecting this stuff? The game didn't tell me.
Right.
And then they kind of fill you in on the details through like radio broadcasts, which I thought was really cool. So I'm going through the area. I got the monster, and then or not the monster, the robot, and then I start filling it up, and then I finally got to the end, and I don't know what happened. The screen turns white. Um, that game is going to be incredibly fun. I can't wait for that to completely be out and everybody's playing it, because it's really really good.
It is. Yeah. I really really enjoyed it. I've played through it a couple times now. I love dual stick shooters. I love looter shooters. Hopefully, this is kind of a dual stick looter shooter when it comes out. I know they're not going to be having like crazy pluses and minuses and bonuses and whatnot to the different weapons, but having a vast arsenal that you're constantly swapping between would be good for me. Even though you're not getting my machine gun is better than Bill's because it has this plus to whatever. That's unlikely to be there. But just if there's like a steady stream of dropping weapons that you can kind of switch between for whatever situation, and it's like you come to a boss, it's like, oh crap, I just have a handgun and an Uzi. Oh yeah, there's a grenade launcher back. So you run back a couple rooms, grab that grenade launcher that dropped. Hopefully it has a lot of elements like that, because that stuff is really, really, really fun. But yeah, I'm really, really digging the From Space stuff. I can't wait for the full game to come out next year.
Yeah, and I played a little bit more of Life is Strange True Colors. I don't have anything more to say about that. Anything that I would say about it would be spoilery, so I'm done talking about that game, except to say that it's really good and I like it.
It
Um,
is.
Anything else that you want to talk about before we get into the news?
I don't think so. I looked through my whole library to see if I played anything else, and the only other game that I played a little bit of is Destiny 2. I'm kind of slowing on that one a little bit because there's so much other stuff around. But I'm still like tier 60 or something, so it's like I'm most way through the battle pass. I didn't think I'd get this far. So I'll keep tuning you folks in to see if I complete the battle pass, and then I can continue to play Destiny 2 after this season. Because if I don't complete the battle pass, I'm done on Destiny 2. So we'll see what happens.
So you've given yourself an ultimatum.
Yeah, I did. And I'll probably just ignore it in the future if a cool update comes out. But I'm saying it right now just to give us something to talk about.
There you go. All right. Speaking of something to talk about, I can't believe I didn't add this to the show notes. I just did, by the way, while you were talking.
Saw it.
The pro games got announced. We got six pro games, the sixth one being Mafia, but we got five more games this month. I'm sure the in lead is in chat and he can tell us if I subscribed to Stadia right now for the first time ever, how many games I would get right now. That number would be pretty good. I don't
It
know what
is.
it is. I think it's like 40 at this point or something. But the five games that were added in addition to Mafia are Control, which I think a lot of people are very happy about that one. That one is
Yeah.
awesome. Hello Engineer, I'm not a fan. Cake Bash, which I think that game, like, I know that it has crossplay with PC. It's still hard to find like somebody to play with on that unless you are setting up a game with friends or whatever. So the more people that have access to that, the better, because it's a really cool game with a incredibly fantastic art style, and nobody's playing it for some reason. Then there's Spirit, and I can't read it because it's really small. Something's Big Adventure. It's some horse game, whatever. And then Unto the End, which got delayed, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Of these games, I know that you had already played Control, and you'd already played Cake Bash. Are you excited about any of these other than Mafia 3?
I'm excited about DreamWorks Spirit Lucky's Big Adventure. That's the full title, Bill, that you didn't read out. I wanted to read it out. I'm actually not excited about that, but I think my daughter is. I showed her the trailer for it, and she was like, "Oh, that looks like fun." So maybe she'll be playing that on my account. The rest of the games are amazing. Like, this is a really good month. You have Control
Mhm.
Ultimate Edition, which is just fantastic. So that's a good single player game. You have Cake Bash, which is a fun party multiplayer game. You have Hello Engineer, which is a solo or co-op creation game. You have the Spirit game, which is skews a little bit younger for the kids. And then you have Unto the End, which is coming later that we found out because that's been replaced with Mafia 3, which is definitely for kind of the adults out there. There's an amazing amount, a variety of content that was dropped
Mhm.
onto Stadia Pro this month.
Absolutely. It's definitely one of those things where it's like this has something for everybody. And
Yep.
I said that I'm not a fan of Hello Engineer. It's not because I think it's bad. It's in
Mm,
early access. And because it's in early access, like there's some jank to it. And I ran into issues where I couldn't figure things out. And I'm attributing that to the idea that it's in early access, and hopefully that stuff kind of get works out
right.
or worked out. And then uh, probably the biggest release on Stadia this week, actually the biggest release on Stadia in a long time, has got to be FIFA 22. Lloyd and I aren't soccer fans. Lloyd and I are not video game sports game fans for the most part, unless it's hockey for Lloyd, or like Mario soccer for me, like Super Mario Strikers. I mean, um, so neither of us have played FIFA 22, but I've seen some footage and it looks gorgeous, and it looks
Yeah.
like it runs really, really well, and it's got all those bells and whistles that they were talking about, where the AI is better and can behave independently or work together as a team. All that stuff is really cool. Happy that it's on Stadia, but I'm not going to play it, I don't think.
Yeah, yeah. The new animations, the new kind of I can't remember what they called it, but the next generation where they're using machine learning to kind of move a lot of the players on the pitch and do the animations and the tween animations between
Mhm.
one set and another set. It just looks amazing. Like, sport games are already looking photoreal when you if you just walk by quickly and look at a TV. You can't tell whether it's like Monday Night Football or Madden playing on like a PS5 or whatever. It's amazing how good they look. But adding that additional animation system just makes it look even better. It's like we ran into this early on with like Blizzard doing its the little video clips that they would do before new games or whatever. And early on, they looked really good. The 3D animation is ridiculous. The models are ridiculous, but the eyes look dead. And then they worked on that. And then future things that Blizzard worked on, the eyes look normal. And it's like, okay, the rest of the animation didn't really change that much, but you made the eyes not look dead anymore. And it tricks your brain even more to thinking that this is real life. And that's kind of what's happening with this additional animation for the other players that are on the pitch with you. It looks less video game and it looks more like something you'd be watching on TV. So one more step closer to real life simulation. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and you know what? The FIFA is like the biggest game in the world.
Yeah.
Like everybody loves FIFA except for me and Lloyd apparently. So I think that it's awesome that it's on Stadia, and I think it's great that EA has shown, excuse me, over and over that their games are running really, really well on Stadia hardware, and there's no reason why they should stop bringing them, because it's in. I'm not a developer, but my guess is now that they've got all the hard work done of getting Frostbite running on Stadia's hardware, that now porting is much easier than it has been in the past. And that's the kind of thing that I think that you're going to see over time as more developers port their engines onto Stadia. You'll see the frequency of the games releasing on Stadia increase. And speaking of numbers and stuff like that, InLead is in chat, and he said 36 games right now,
Yep.
and he said that's an all-time high. So there you go. right now, if you sign up for Stadia and you've never played it before, there's a link in the description you can use if you'd like. Um, 36 games instantaneously, and you can get those for free for like, is it 2 months or 1 month, Lloyd? When you do the
Uh,
trial, I think it's 2 months, isn't it?
I I think it well, it depends which link you use. I think if you use
Yeah,
someone's code, they get a month, you get a month, and then you get your first month or something. I think you get a month, you pay for a month, and then get a month or something.
yeah, I
I don't
think
even
it's
remember,
something like
man. It's
that.
so confusing.
I think it's something like that. Anyway, never been a better time to try it out because it works really
Yeah,
good. And if you're not sure about it, just click the link and try it. It doesn't cost you anything. And then if
that's
it
right.
turns out that your internet isn't good enough or you don't like the experience, then you can cancel and be better off for
That's right.
now knowing instead of just guessing.
That's right.
All right, let's talk about the next thing on here is this is a really good deal. This is a really, really good deal. Stadia posted this. I love it when they do this. I remember back in the 80s when I was a kid, you would buy a console and you would get a game with it. I bought excuse me, I bought my Nintendo Entertainment System. It came with Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. I bought my Super Nintendo. It came with Super Mario. I bought my N64. I think it came with Mario 64. I don't know. But when you bought a console, you generally used to get a free game. That kind of has fallen by the wayside recently. And Stadia said, well, we can do you one better. You buy your game, you get a free console. And, I made a video about this earlier this week. It's always been this way where you get a free console. Now they're just giving you a way to play that free console on a TV instead of a Chromebook. And
Right.
that's awesome. So you want to tell people about this deal, Lloyd?
Yeah, the one thing, the most important thing about this deal for me is when you look at the offer valid in, there's a whole country named Canada, the place of poutine and
Hockey.
other great things in hockey, doesn't get this deal again. This is
Oh,
like the third one in a row. I'm sad because I really want another one for I need one more full set for another TV in the house, but whatever. That's me being selfish. This is a fantastic deal. So if you buy a game or pre-order a game that is $60 US or more by October
10th.
10th. So it's purchase a game or pre-order a game that is launching before October 10th. You get a free Stadia Premier Edition. You'll get a code for it. You go to the Google store, you punch in that code, you pay for shipping, and then you'll get that thing sent to you for whatever the shipping charge is. So pretty decent deal. You spend $60, you get a free controller, Chromecast Ultra, and you just have to pay shipping for that.
Yeah, and I've taken advantage of these in the past with Resident Evil 8 when that came out. I bought that. I got the free one with Cyberpunk 2077. I bought that, got the free thing, and I've given those away to people. Um it's really cool the way that they do it. You get an email, you click the link, and then it says, "Oh, this costs zero." You hit order, and I don't know what kind of, because like the rest of shipping and handling all over the US has gotten slower with the
Mhm.
pandemic. Somehow Google gets those things to you in like 2 days. I'm like, I don't know how they're managing it, but it shows up like lightning fast, and then you can play your games. So,
Yeah,
Lloyd, I've got a question for you.
for sure.
What game would you, in chat? Feel free to let us know in chat. What game would you recommend that people buy so that they can take advantage of this deal if they live outside of Canada or in one of the countries that is supported with by this deal?
US, UK, Ireland, Netherlands, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, Austria, Switzerland. Those are all places that it can celebrate Stadia and cheer when they get their free one.
Yeah.
If you're in one of those places and you buy a game and you need a hint as to what game you should go, I have two for you. If you like story narrative driven games, Life is Strange True Colors is fantastic. You'll be able to play the full trilogy because the initial two games are coming to Stadia Pro at some future point. Life is Strange True Colors, fantastic. The DLC, the prequel DLC dropped. That's a free inclusion if you have a specific version of it, so you can play that as well. If that game isn't your style, we're getting Far Cry 6 coming in like a week's time. That will be a game that play, and that would be the other one that I recommend. Far Cry 6 looks ridiculous.
I'm trying to see how much Borderlands 3 would cost, but like it's taken a bit to load because my computer's doing 48 things. If that one's $60, I would say Borderlands 3. It's one of those games where you can just play that forever. And
Right.
even if you don't have Stadia Pro, this is something that I want to talk about real quick. Um, in the video that I did earlier this week, somebody said, "Well, hold on, it's a free console, but you still have to pay the subscription." There's still that
Right.
misconception out there that Google somehow needs to remedy. Everybody seems to think that you have to subscribe to Stadia in order
Yeah,
to use it, and I don't know how to overcome that. It's really, really irritating that
it
that
is.
that people are misinformed. Like they think that you have to subscribe, and they're not being like this person was not being a jerk. They were.
Sure.
There's plenty of jerks out there. This person was generally just misinformed, and they thought that you had to be subscribed.
Yeah.
What can Google do?
They have to do some advertising. They have to come out and say play Stadia for free. Subscribe for additional $10 a month for all these extras, and then do that. That like
Yeah.
change it. Play for free, and then show off the free to play games that are available right off the bat. Download or download, claim Destiny and Pac-Man and all the other games that are available, and say play these now for free. Just head to stadia.google.com. And they gotta keep banging the word free into people's heads, so that it changes some of the public perception as to what Stadia is.
Yeah. A minute ago, I asked chat to tell us what games that they think people should spend their $60 on in order to get the free bundle.
Hmm.
They're saying Far Cry 6. They're saying Sekiro. Sekiro's really, really good, but really, really hard.
Yeah.
More Far Cry 6. Ahmed's saying Chorus would be cool. And you can like that game's not out yet, but you can pre-order it, and pre-ordering does count. So you could pre-order Chorus for the X dollars. I don't know how much that one's going to cost off
Well,
the top of my head. What's the
is
matter?
Chorus coming out before October 10th? Because I think pre-orders only count if the game releases before October 10th, according to the
Ooh.
terms and conditions.
Okay. Well, read the fine print. So
Yeah,
I guess
definitely.
Chorus is not going to be okay. Zin is saying FIFA 22 if you're into soccer. There's a
Yeah.
there's there's a game out there on Stadia for everybody, and now you can get a free controller with it and be able to play it on your TV, which is the way I think most people probably want to play it. All
Yeah.
right,
I
go
I
ahead.
think Far Cry 6, if you pick up Far Cry 6, just picture Giancarlo Esposito doing his like evil smile that he does every single time someone pre-orders Far Cry 6. And that might push you into the right direction to pre-order that game if that's the way you want to go. Just picture his face.
Yeah, I want to play that game. Unfortunately, it comes out like right after Metroid Dread, and I just don't see myself like I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to play Far Cry 6 later because I'm too hyped for Metroid. All right. Speaking of playing on your TV, there is a new way for you to play on your TV, and it's really, really cool. This just came out.
Hmm.
Basically, if you open up your Stadia app on your phone, you can up here on the very top, you can click on the controller, and it says phone touch gamepad. Or if I pair a controller, so I tried this this week. I paired my 8BitDo controller with my phone, and then I used my phone to let me play on the TV without a Stadia controller. Up until now, if you wanted to play on a on the TV with the Stadia controller, you had to, or I'm sorry, without a Stadia controller, you had to play on a computer. So if you
Right.
wanted to play on the TV, you had to have a Stadia controller. Now you could just pair a controller, whatever controller you happen to have, with your phone and use that. Now the
Yeah.
downside is that your screen has to stay on because I turned off my screen and immediately it lost connection. And I don't like the idea of my screen just staying on and showing that I'm connected to Stadia. Like, I don't know anything about burn in. I worry a little bit about burn in. It's, of course, it's going to hit my battery life. Like the battery life on my phone is insanity, so I don't have to worry about that really all that much. But
Yeah.
not everybody has a phone that has a ridiculous battery in it. So I think that this is cool. And on
Mhm.
Android, I bet you it could be solved, but on iOS, I'm guessing that that's I don't know. I mean, I can listen to YouTube videos in the background on iOS and it doesn't have to have the screen on. What do you think, Lloyd?
Yeah, in doing a little bit of iOS development back in the day, there's specific ways that you can force your app to run in the background when the phone is closed. But usually it's around streaming audio, streaming video, something like that. I don't know if there probably is, but it's been so long since I've done any development for iOS apps. So there might be an API call that you can make to keep your app running in the background even with the screens off. Maybe they just forgot to call that one API call,
Or they're not allowed
potentially,
to.
or they're not allowed to.
Yeah.
So that is a bit of a bad thing about this. In an overwhelming positive
Hmm.
feature to come to Stadia. Hopefully they can fix that. If not, we'll see. I'm not worried about burn-in. Modern phone screens, they do enough like subpixel jitter and stuff like that to kind of prevent any serious burn-in. But I just don't want to waste my battery by having a screen taking all the juice from my phone while I'm playing another video game. Hopefully they can fix that. But even if they don't, for short bursts, this is going to be super useful when a friend comes over. You only have one Stadia controller, but you have
Hmm.
an Xbox controller and a PS4 controller and an 8-bit Do controller. So you just pair that to their phone, and then they can punch in the code on their phone. It connects to your stream, and then you guys can play multiplayer that way. This is going to be huge. And now the people out there that say, well, Stadia is not free. I'm like, yeah, you don't have to pay $10 a month. That's not what I mean. If I want to play it on a TV, I have to buy an expensive controller from Google. Well, now you don't even have to do that.
Yeah.
You have any controller that you want, hook it up through your phone, and you can play those games.
And if you have it like Android TV, like if
Mm.
you already have Android TV, then you're all set. You literally don't have to spend any money at all
That's
in
right.
order to play games on Stadia on your TV. It's really, really cool. I did try to use I'm sure you guys have heard me a million times talk about how I don't like games where like touchscreen gaming. I'm just not a fan of not being able to tactily feel the buttons underneath my thumbs. And I did try the screen controller with the phone. It was terrible, by the way. I couldn't figure out a way to move the controls around. So like the ABXY were way down in the way down in this corner down here, and I wanted to move them more to the middle. Like this
Right.
whole middle of my phone was empty, and the buttons were all down here on the middle. Now maybe you can move that stuff around, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you can, or if you can't, then you should be able to, because then as I'm holding my phone, I'm going to hold it like this. As I'm holding my phone, like my thumbs, they don't want to rest on the very bottom corners. They want to rest
Right.
up higher, and I should be able to adjust that instead of having blank space up higher. So there's
Yeah.
still some tweaks to be made, but the idea that you can play on your phone, like obviously you're not going to be playing Destiny 2 or whatever, but you could play something that's, more relaxing or something. You could just be playing on your TV, a casual game, and you've got your phone in your hand as your controller. That's really
Right.
cool. It's cool that you can.
Yeah, I think with the size of the ABXY buttons, it's probably just because they're repurposing the overlay that goes on top of games when you're playing on your
Hmm.
phone. It would be nice if there was a second version that kind of moved those around a little bit, just to make you don't have to worry about covering a screen that if there's no gameplay coming on that screen. So maybe they can have a second set of buttons for that feature, which would make it a lot more comfortable and convenient for people to play these games just using the touch controls.
Yeah, and I did I installed Steam Link on my phone because I wanted to try, like I was waiting in queue to play New World. And I
Mhm.
was sitting on the couch over there and I was like, I got to get up every couple of minutes and come over and see what the number says. So I was like, I'm going to install Steam Link on my phone, and I got it installed. And then I would I was watching TV, and I would bring up my phone and look, and I'm like, okay, there's my queue. Uh, they have some really good customization
Hmm.
for the for what your buttons are like on your phone. Like you can say, turn the mouse on, turn the mouse off, resize this, move these things around. You have complete control over it, and that's definitely something that Google should look at and steal, because I think if they stole that, it would be better for everybody.
Yep, definitely.
All right. Let's move on. And we've talked about the pro games, the free console, the phone link, public parties. I did
Yeah.
try this. I got into a party and nobody was talking and nobody ever started the game. That's not on Google. That's just the bad luck that I got into.
Right.
Um, have you tried public parties?
I did this morning. I set up a public party. I joined another one just to see how easy it was. This is really great. This is more. I think it's going to be used a lot for just kind of like a public looking for group. Maybe
Hmm.
not people that want to chat. Just because not everybody has the time to take a headset and plug it into their controller. Or however they're going to communicate with people. But this is going to be good for finding games. It's supported in about 20 games so far. Ark, Crata, Dead by Daylight, Destiny 2, Far Cry 5, FIFA 21, FIFA 22, Human Fall Flat, Humankind, Madden NFL, Marvel's Avengers, NBA, PUBG, Red Dead Redemption, The Crew 2, Division 2, ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Rainbow Six Siege, and Watch Dogs Legion. So hopefully more games will start supporting it, because from my understanding, watching people do it, I haven't done it myself, is you can get all the people into it and then you can say, let's play. And it'll join whatever multiplayer matchmaking has to happen to get everybody into one party in game. If it works that seamless, that's going to be fantastic for just future groups. Like you could put out a call out on Twitter saying, hey, open a public party. Who wants to jump into my team for Far Cry 6 when that game is eventually supported? And you don't necessarily have to enable crowd play then for that game if you're streaming. You could just have a public party and then get your viewers to jump in that way,
Hmm.
and use it as just another way to play with the community and with friends, of course. But I'm just thinking of streamy kind of ways to use this, and I think that might be a good future use for this tech.
Yeah, I think that as far as like streaming, I would still prefer crowd play because it has the queue system where people
Hmm.
can queue through. So like, hey, I've got room in my party for four people. Everybody queues up, and then we play a match. Those four people leave. The next four people come in. So
Yep.
as for streaming, I think that's better. However,
For the games that support it.
for the games that support it. And then, you mentioned tweeting out that you've got a public party. When you make a public party, I think you do this with any party as well. But when you make a party on Stadia, you can just have a link and you can
Yep.
copy that link and paste it. So you could just literally, you could be playing, paste a link into Twitter, tweet it out and say, hey, come play this game with me. Whether I'm streaming or not, I could do that. And then we
Yep.
could get together and play. Usually I go through our community Discord to play games with people, but that's yet another way to get people to play with, which is cool. I can
Yep.
see, looking at this UI, I can see this UI being great right now, but as more games support it and as the feature becomes more popular, I really, really hope that there is a way to filter so I can say, I personally would like to play, I don't know, The Crew 2. I want to play
Mhm.
The Crew 2. Show me the public parties for The Crew 2. Don't show me
Yep.
any other public parties. And
Yep.
it would be really nice if it would highlight on there. So, like, I could say, all right, I want to play The Crew 2. Show me all the Crew 2 wins. And it shows me all the public parties for The Crew 2. Awesome. Oh, this one's
Yep.
blue, which means that my friend is in that public party already. So I'm going to join that one. That would
Mm.
be really, really good UI as far as this goes. And I think that hopefully that kind of thing happens. And not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with this. I'm just
Mhm.
saying I already see ways that it can be improved, and I always want it to be better.
Definitely. People in chat are asking, how do you get to public parties? So you go to stadia.google.com.
Yeah, you
You
have to be
go
on a computer, by the way.
exactly. So you have to be in a web browser. You go to stadia.google.com. At the top of the screen on the right, there's the little two people with the number of your friends that are online. You click that to open up kind of your friends list. And then right at the top left, there's something that says parties. You click that and you can find a party. It'll show all the public parties for games that you own below it. And then you can click start a party. And when you do that, you can choose a private party for your friends or a public party for everybody. And if you choose a public party, then you can click select a game. It'll show all the games that you own that are supported. So you can click Watch Dogs Legion, for example, put some descriptions in the party description, show how many players you need. So you can choose between 1 and 8 or 1 and 9, I believe. And then you hit start party, and then it creates that thing. And it's basically about to what it wants to do is just sit there until the number of people join, and then the party leader would click start game or whatever to get everybody into it. So really cool tech. I need to play with it a little bit more, but man, what a week for new features on Google Stadia, Bill, and we're not even done talking about it.
That's right. We aren't talking about it. And speaking of parties, I was trying to show people how it works at the same time that you were talking about it. But there you go. I spelled subscribe wrong. Speaking of parties, this has been something that we have been talking about on this show for a really long time. We keep seeing over and over and over again in the APK leaks that they're working on party chat on Android. They're working on
Right.
party chat on Android. It just keeps getting shown to us, and then it never comes. Well, the wait is over. If you are an Android user, you can now use party chat, like microphone, headphones. You can now use party chat if you're playing a game on Stadia. The long, treacherous road of waiting for this is over. Here you go. You can now do it. I've never like, I don't know if you can do it on iOS. I've never tried it. I only use parties when I'm on my computer and when I'm on the TV. I've never played a game on my phone that was like a multiplayer focused game, because I'm always like, well, I don't know how good it's going to perform, so I'll go play on the TV or whatever. Have you?
No, I was just checking something out because someone said in chat the public parties work on the iOS web app. I can't believe I hadn't tried that. I was only trying the actual Stadia app because when they release new features, it's usually just part of the app more so than the web app. At least I've been finding recently. So if you open up the PWA version of Stadia, right at the top, you can join parties as well, right from your mobile device. I hadn't tried that previously, so I just wanted to correct that point. Because we had misspoke.
Yeah, so that means then, okay, so I'm confused then. So could people just use, because I don't have an Android phone, could people just use I don't know if it's called a PWA on Android as well?
Yep. That's the progressive web app. That's just what they call this version of an application that runs
Okay.
as a icon
So
on your screen, basically.
could they have just used that to talk to people on Android?
Well, I'm sure they could have, or they probably will eventually. They could bake it right into the web app. I'm sure they get better control, obviously, if it's a physical app, like a separate app rather, because you can tie into all of the system level APIs to do all that stuff. When you're running as a PWA, none of that stuff would be exposed. You'd have to basically write everything yourself in JavaScript and have it running there, which has a little bit of weight to it.
Yeah, right. But like, if you can join parties on iOS and Android through the PWA app, then you should be able to use voice chat through that as well, I would think. Otherwise, what's the point of joining a party?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
I haven't tried it, but I would assume so.
I guarantee that there are people in chat who can tell us, and they will, because that's what they do, and we appreciate them for it. But anyway, you can now use voice chat on the official app on Stadia on Android. So I think that that's a pretty good thing, and I think that there's going to be a lot of people who are happy about that.
Yeah, no more like side channeling Discord chat through like crazy wires and external amplifiers and all the crazy stuff that you have to do to get other audio sources in and out when you're playing on console or stuff like that. You don't have to do any of that anymore. It's just built right into the app, which is nice.
Yeah. All right. Earlier, we mentioned that Unto the End is delayed. The new release date was tweeted out by Stadia
Mhm.
yesterday, I think it was. No, 3 days ago. And that is December 10th, 2021, when that game is going to be coming out. So that's
Yep.
pretty long of a, I mean, it's not terrible or whatever, but it's pretty long for a delay. Uh, I'm surprised that, like, that they tweet that out, but then they put the game. So this was tweeted out the same day that they said that it's part of the October Pro games. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So here's my question. And this is a stupid scenario that probably won't actually happen. If I'm a subscriber to Stadia Pro
Mhm.
in October, and I don't subscribe to Stadia Pro in December, do I still get Unto the End when it comes out? I don't think so.
No, what it looks like, either there was a contract issue or something happened that got in the way of this. The game is on other streaming platforms. I think it's part of X Cloud, I want to say. So maybe there's some exclusivity stuff. So they had to wait for some contract stuff to either be in the clear, or they signed a contract, something like that. So whatever happened, it happened at the very like last moment to get this moved, because they announced it, and then a few days later they're like, wait a second, it's not coming to
Right.
December. So something big had to get in the middle there, I think.
All right. Moving on from that, this is actually kind of interesting. This is a game that has gotten a lot of hate, and I think a lot of it's deserved. The game is kind of broken. I played it on Stadia. I played it on Xbox. I played it on my PC. I played it on GeForce Now. And in all four cases, it was a bad experience,
Yep.
a very bad experience, and that is Outriders. Now, Square Enix has done a lot of patches to this, but they have. I mean, and since the game came out, I kind of ignored the Stadia version because it was so bad.
Mm.
But I wasn't the only one. Square Enix and they're the publisher. The developer kind of has been ignoring, using air quotes here. You can't see them. They've been ignoring the Stadia version. Well, they just posted this on their subreddit. That's where they post their patch notes. I'm going
Right.
to read this real quick. It says, the state of Stadia. Stadia still needs to be brought in line with our other platforms with regards to fixes, bug resolutions, and cross-play support. You think? I mean, first off, when did this game come out? Do you remember, Lloyd?
Yeah, and I can
Somebody
I
in
can
chat, please tell us, because
I
it's
can Google
been
it.
a long time. Then they said this.
April 1st, which is kind of funny.
That's
Kind
right.
of funny.
Oh man. Yeah. The game is out. Just kidding. Maybe in
Yeah.
October.
Hmm.
They said we're planning to complete this alignment with the upcoming big update that Outriders is planned to receive in the future. By big update, we do not mean a smaller patch. Well, that's what they mean by big update. I don't understand this phrasing. But a significant changes across the board. The work it has taken to align Stadia to date means that a much bigger update is the best possible way to resolve the situation. So first off, I hate the phrasing there
Hmm.
because that is going to get, well, okay, you know what? I was going to say that's going to get people to be like, "Well, Stadia is the reason our game's broken." But those people would say that anyway. So I guess that doesn't really matter. It's very odd, and the
Yeah.
fact that they have just been not transparent about this and constantly just ignoring the Stadia community. I feel like if they haven't already given people refunds, then everybody should just get their money back for this game. Not me, not Lloyd, because we didn't pay for it. It was given to us as like a review copy, but it's ridiculous how bad that game played on Stadia. And then I thought maybe if I played it elsewhere, it'd be better. No, it was bad everywhere. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on this, Lloyd? Do
It
you
is. It
care?
is. Um, I really wanted to like the game. I loved the first few missions that you do when you kind of get transported from your normal world to kind of the destroyed world, or whatever the story beats were, to kind of get you from a beautiful beautiful blue sky, green grass world to the complete hellscape that you kind of transport into. I loved that. I loved
Hmm.
everything about it. It just it plays terribly.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good game. I was trying to play on my Xbox multiplayer with my son that was playing on his Xbox One. So we have an Xbox One in outside. I have my Series X here. We couldn't even get multiplayer on the same platform working at one point, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm done with this game. If they fix it, I'll come back to it. But it just seems like they're tracking so many issues still. So they fixed a bunch with this latest patch on other platforms, but there's so many other huge issues that you think would have been squashed by now.
Yeah, it just seems like they don't. I don't know. It seems like they're flailing, and maybe they bit off more than they can chew.
Yeah,
Whatever. If it gets fixed
definitely.
eventually, I will praise it. I'm okay with games. I mean, look, I'm not okay with games starting crappy and getting better, but I'm more okay with that than games
Right.
starting out crappy and staying crappy. So I really hope that it gets fixed. Real quick before we move on to crowd play, which is where we respond to all your super chats that you guys have been sending in. Thank you very much for the support, by the way. It really does help us. Um, this is Lloyd. Just take off your headphones because he doesn't want to hear about this. He doesn't like Monster Hunter. I love Monster Hunter. Absolutely adore that game. And at the Tokyo Game Show 2021, they did a Monster Hunter spotlight, and they said, which gaming platform do you consider your primary gaming platform? And they said a gaming PC or laptop, a smartphone or tablet, or Google Stadia as their choices. Um,
Right.
Kind of odd that they left out like Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, but okay. But they
Uh,
mentioned Stadia, and the reason that I bring this up is because I'm a huge fan of the Monster Hunter series. Um, a recent fan. Like I really liked Monster Hunter World. I had so much fun with that game. I adored Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, and then Monster Hunter Rise. Every iteration that I've played has gotten better and better and better, and I want more people to be able to play these games because they're so good, and they're games where I mean, you can play solo if you want, you can play offline. It's a much better experience if you're playing online with other people. So playing online is something that makes perfect sense when you're talking about a game coming to Stadia, and Capcom's ports on Stadia have been really good. We've got Resident
mhm.
Evil 7, Resident Evil 8. Those are some of the best ports on Stadia. Was there any other Capcom games I'm not thinking of that are on Stadia yet?
Can't think of any off the top of my head.
Okay. But those, like Capcom's done great work with their ports on Stadia, and I just want more Monster Hunter. So I want Monster Hunter Rise to come to Stadia so more people can play it because it's a wonderful, wonderful game. Lloyd has nothing to say because he doesn't like Monster Hunter, and he
Well,
can be wrong if he wants.
it's not that I don't like Monster Hunter, it's that I've played every version of Monster Hunter and can't get into it. So I
I
want to
understand.
like
I'm just
Monster
giving you a
Hunter.
hard time.
I just can't. This first slide that you showed where it just asked what platforms that is their main gaming. That's probably because earlier they said choose all the platforms you own, so they're
Oh,
asking those questions. I don't think they would have left out all the other consoles here, but maybe that was the case or whatever. I believe Monster Hunter was included in that Capcom major leak that showed us how much Google paid for exclusivity, or not exclusivity, getting the Resident Evil games over. I think that was in there as well, that it
hmm.
was coming to PC and Stadia, I believe. So I wouldn't be surprised if down the road this happens. At least there was some chatter about it at
Yeah.
one point.
Okay.
So I would love to see it for the people that like Monster Hunter. I'd probably give it another try, and I'd probably stop after about 15 minutes.
And you know what? I don't blame you. That game series does not teach the player how to play very well,
Right.
and it can be a very very frustrating experience if you don't know what you're doing, and that's totally on Capcom because they don't know how to teach people how to play. That's on them. It's not Lloyd's fault, it's Capcom's fault. But Lloyd, you're missing out. That's all I have to
Yeah.
say about that.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
We had a bunch of super chats that came in throughout the show. First off, I just want to thank the people who, oh, it's not showing this. Hold on, let me bring this up here. So thank you to P. Cray and Kodiak Moonwolf for remembering to support us. Kodiak Moonwolf has been a member for 15 months and P. Cray for 6 months. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, there's a join button down below. If you click on that, you become a member of the channel. And then I guess when we're doing live streams, this is a new thing on YouTube. If we're doing a live stream and you're watching the live stream, you can then click on that button and it does like a little pop-up that says, hey, we've been hanging out for this long, which is really, really cool. So thank you to P. Cray and Kodiak for that. All right. Avery Krause. He said something really awesome. He said, go play Stadia on your phone while donating blood. We're in a national blood shortage, so if you're eligible, go save lives. Google your local center. Absolutely, I 100% agree with that. Donating blood is very, very important. So thank you very much for the support, and go do what Avery said if you are eligible. If you recently got a tattoo, you can't do it, though. P. Cray sent in a super chat. They said, FIFA on Stadia is amazing. Thank you to EA.
Wonderful.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, P. Cray. Sukotronic sent in a super chat, as they always do, without any message, but we appreciate it nonetheless. All Davis Music sent in a super chat, and they said, I wonder if the Quake remaster will come to Stadia. I don't see that happening, as that's an id game and Microsoft owns id, but I don't know. I mean, we've seen weirder things from Microsoft. I feel like on one hand, they're like, hey, we know that if we want people to play our games, then we could sell them in other places. And then they do that. And then other games, they're like, yeah, no, it's only on Xbox. So they can't seem to make up their mind. What do you think, Lloyd? You think it's going to happen?
Well, they had the big blast of platforms when the remaster came out, so it's on PlayStation and Xbox and PC and Nintendo Switch and you name it. But I think that if it was in the plans to come to Stadia, it would happen on that day, because they wanted to blanket the whole internet with, hey, come play Quake. I wish it would come to Stadia. I've played it a bunch of times on my Switch and I have it on PC as well. But I'd love to just boot into it every once in a while on my phone and go through a couple levels, because I have so many fond memories of playing that game when it first came out.
Yeah, I tried playing it. I never. Okay, so I'm going to tell a story, and you guys are probably going to laugh at me. I'm really old. Surprises. I know. So when I first started playing first-person shooters, it was Wolfenstein and it was Doom, and you controlled it by sitting there with your right hand on the arrow keys, and your left hand was like on the control and shift and space buttons like area over there. And in order to strafe, you would hold down control and push buttons a different, like, it was a weird, like, your hand didn't touch the mouse. And I ended up I was in the Army, I was stationed in Hawaii, and I went to the PX, and I was just looking at the games at the PX, and there was one there called Quake, and I think it said like from the makers of Doom or whatever, and I was like, oh, I love Doom. I'm gonna pick this up. I bought the game, I brought it home, and it said use WASD and your mouse. And I thought that was the craziest thing that I'd ever heard of. Who in the heck would want to use a mouse in order to play a shooter? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I put everything back. This is back when you could return games. I put everything back in the box, went back to the PX, returned it, and got something else. So I never played Quake. I tried playing it on my Xbox, and I don't see the appeal. But I think it's because it's so long ago. And like, I remember playing like Quake 3 Arena. I love that game, but the original Quake just did not appeal to me. And I think it's just because I have no nostalgia for it. If I had played it back then using WASD and the mouse, I probably would have loved it, but I missed out on that, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if I told this story here or on another podcast, but back in the day, when this was in development, I was following the development so close. This was like early days of the internet, so you didn't really have full web pages with images even back then. but you could use the finger command on a terminal to query someone's I can't remember what it's called. It's like dot profile or whatever, or
Hmm.
dot something on their system. So all of the development team that was working on Quake, you could finger and you'd see all the current development updates, and they would talk about ideas for the game. Like originally they had a plan for Quake where if you're running Quake, you could have people enter your game system. There was going to be portals that you could drop where people could come in and you could create a level and they could come into yours, and then they can go through a different portal and end up on someone else's computer. And I was just like so fascinated with the development process, learning about moving brushes and how the new editor is going to work for creating these 3D worlds, because you finally had stuff on top of stuff, which you couldn't do in Doom and all these other things. I was so deep in the weeds on Quake development, and when it came out, I that's the only game I played probably for 6 months. Such fond memories of like the early days of the internet, and my real first interaction with developers, because they were not hidden for the first time. You
Yeah,
could actually see what these real people are doing. It was a really cool time in gaming for me.
that's awesome. That's really cool. Dante Armstrong sent in a super chat. Thank you very much for the support, Dante. They said, it seems like you two sample a lot of games. So I'm just
Mhm.
curious, what's the last game you two finished on Stadia? I'm going to let Lloyd think about this for a second because he actually probably has an answer. Um, I don't finish games. That's not 100% true. There's a few games that I finished, and I finished way more games on Stadia than I have on other platforms in recent years. But for the most part, I play games for, 8, 10, 20 hours, and then I lose interest and find something else to do. I just
Right.
don't have the attention span for it. I don't know what the last one was, but I finished games like Guilt and Borderlands 3 on Stadia, and Doom Eternal on Stadia.
Mhm.
Lloyd, what about you? What's the last one that you finished?
Last one I finished was Young Souls, and it's currently my game of the year. It
Oh,
is such
wow.
a fantastic thing. It's only available on Stadia right now. It's coming to other platforms next year. If you want to get an early jump on that one, it is such an amazing ARPG. Side-scrolling, really amazing art style. I love it so much. And then before that, I think the game was foreclosed because that was it's like a 4-hour game, so it was hard not to beat that game on Stadia.
There you go. All right. Thank you very much for the question, Dante. Chuck Smith sent in a super chat. They said, what do you think about playing Stadia on the Odin handheld? Their Indiegogo campaign ends in 16 hours. I pre ordered the Pro and I'm excited. I mean, look, awesome for you, Chuck Smith. I don't have room in my life for another handheld, and I've already decided that I
Yeah.
want the Steam Deck. So I'm not going to be picking up the Odin handheld, but I'm super happy that it's gonna if it's going to support Stadia and other cloud services. I'm super happy for that because anytime you can have another way for people to play games conveniently, I think that's awesome. Have you done much research into the Odin handheld, Lloyd?
Just when the Indiegogo started, and was already after I had pre-ordered the deck, and yeah, I think the deck kind of ruined all other devices like this for me, because now I don't have to compare like specs and what it can run and what's the CPU and what's the GPU. I'm just going to buy the deck and not worry about it. The Odin looks like a really cool device. There's a bunch of different versions of it. There's like the light, I think they call it, which is $200 or whatever. And then it's the regular one, which is I think $500 or something. You can go all the way up to like $1,200, I think, if you max everything out. Cool device, and I'm glad that it's going to be supporting all these cloud services, but not something that I'll be picking up.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of Stadiacast. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We really do appreciate it. For those of you who are here live with us, we're going to be doing a D&D stream, I think, in about a half an hour. That I know it says noon, I know it says that it's going to be an hour. I think we're probably going to do that in about a half an hour.
Sure.
There is, on our YouTube channel, D&D. If you're a member, then you can watch it after the fact. But it's while it's live, it's available for everybody, and we're going to be playing some D&D. So make sure that you check that out. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. Lloyd, why don't you tell everybody goodbye?
All right, everybody, take it easy. Have a good rest of your week, and we'll talk to you here next Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Have a good week, everybody.